Sure. Here is part one of your story, written in third person and using basic, clear English. It is around 1,000 words. You can copy and paste this into a document. The sky above the planet Garoon was a deep greenish blue. Strange clouds floated across the horizon, moving quickly in the sharp wind. The Vulri, the proud reptilian people of Garoon, stood waiting on the landing field. Their scales shimmered in the sunlight, and they held tall metal spears in their strong hands. They were ready to greet the new arrivals from far away. Commander Zhao, the leader of the Vulri warriors, stood at the front of the group. He was taller than the others, and his scales were a dark, almost black color. His yellow eyes were cold as he watched the sky. Zhao was not sure why the council wanted to invite other species to the great summit. In his heart, he believed the Vulri were stronger than all others. But the council wanted to show their strength, and so Zhao obeyed. A small ship appeared in the sky. It was not large or beautiful like the Vulri ships. In fact, it looked plain and simple. It came down slowly, and its engines made a low, humming sound. The Vulri watched in silence as it landed on the stone platform. The door of the ship opened with a soft hiss. 3 humans stepped out. The first was a man with short brown hair and a calm face. He wore simple clothes and a jacket with a few patches on the sleeves. His name was Greg Mason, and he led the human group. Behind him was a woman named Maria Lane. She was quiet, with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked around carefully, her eyes sharp and curious. The last was Ben Carter, a tall, cheerful man who smiled at everyone, even the Vulri guards. Zhao stepped forward, holding his spear upright. He looked at Greg Mason and spoke in a low, deep voice. "Welcome to Garoon. Human, I am Commander Zhao. You are guests at our summit. Behave with respect." Greg nodded. He did not smile, but his eyes showed calm and understanding. "Thank you, Commander Zhao. We are honored to be here." Maria and Ben both nodded as well. Maria's gaze moved over the Vulri warriors and a wide, open land around the platform. She was already studying everything, thinking about what it all meant. Ben gave a friendly wave to the Vulri, but most of them only stared back, looking unimpressed. The Vulri warriors whispered among themselves in their own language. Some laughed quietly. To them, the humans looked weak. They were not as tall or as strong as the Vulri. Their skin was soft, not covered in hard scales. Their eyes did not flash with the same wild light as the Vulri hunters. Even their ship was small and plain, not a ship of warriors. Zhao turned and led the way toward the main hall. It was a long walk across the landing field. The ground was hard and rough, covered in small stones and patches of tough grass. The air smelled sharp, like metal and rain. The human group followed close behind Zhao and his guards. As they walked, Greg looked around with quiet interest. He noticed the Vulri buildings, all made of stone and metal, strong and solid. He saw the sharp, jagged mountains in the distance, and the dark shadows moving among the rocks. It was a wild place, and Greg could see why the Vulri were proud of their home. Maria kept her eyes on the Vulri guards. She watched how they moved, how they held their spears, how they looked at the humans. She did not speak, but she was thinking hard, already planning what to do if something went wrong. Ben, on the other hand, tried to start a conversation with a young Vulri warrior walking beside him. He asked about the weather, about the ships, about the strange plants growing near the path. The Vulri warrior just grunted and looked away. They reached the main hall, a large building with high walls and heavy doors. 2 Vulri guards opened the doors, and Zhao led the humans inside. The hall was full of light from the high windows. Long tables were placed along the walls, and at the far end was a raised platform where the Vulri leaders sat. Many Vulri were already inside, talking and laughing in their own language. They stopped and stared as the humans entered. Some looked curious, but others looked annoyed or even angry. Zhao turned and spoke to the room in a loud, clear voice. "Our guests from Earth have arrived. Show them respect, for they are here to see our strength." The Vulri leaders nodded, but there was little warmth in their faces. Greg walked forward and gave a small bow. "Thank you for inviting us. We look forward to learning from you." Zhao did not smile. He watched Greg for a moment and spoke quietly. "You will see many things here. Some may trouble you. The Vulri do not hide our ways. You must be ready." Greg met Zhao's eyes. "We are ready." Maria and Ben stood beside Greg. Maria's face was calm, but inside she was tense. She could feel the eyes of the Vulri on them, measuring them, judging them. Ben tried to appear relaxed, but he could also feel the weight of the room. The Vulri began to serve food and drinks. The humans were given small bowls of a strange, spicy stew and a drink that smelled like smoke. Greg tasted the stew and nodded. "It's good," he said quietly to Maria. She tried it and agreed. The Vulri watched the humans eat, as if expecting them to make a mistake. But Greg, Maria, and Ben ate calmly and politely. Maria took careful note of everything. The taste, the look of the hall, the way the Vulri leaders watched them. Ben tried to start a few more friendly conversations, but most of the Vulri ignored him. After the meal, Zhao stood again. "Tomorrow, the games begin. You will see the strength of the Vulri. You may even join, if you dare." Greg looked at Maria and Ben. He saw a spark of challenge in Maria's eyes. Ben grinned nervously. Greg turned back to Zhao and said, "We will watch, and if we can, we will join." Zhao nodded once. "We will see what the humans are made of." The first night on Garoon passed quietly, but the air was thick with tension. The humans knew they were being tested. The Vulri were proud and strong, but Greg and his team were ready. They had come a long way, and they would not turn back now. Asterisk here's part 2 of your story, written in third person and using simple, clear English. It is approximately 1,000 words. You can copy and paste this into a document. The sun rose over Garoon, casting a bright light across the landscape. The sky was a brilliant blue, and the air was filled with the sounds of strange creatures calling to each other. Greg Mason, Maria Line, and Ben Carter woke early, excited and nervous about the day ahead. Today was the day of the games. In their simple quarters. Greg stretched his arms and took a deep breath. He felt the energy of the planet around him. Maria was already up, looking out the window at the distant mountains. Ben was still rubbing sleep from his eyes. "What time does it start?" he asked, yawning. "Soon," Maria replied, still watching the sky. Zhao said the games begin at sunrise. "Right," Greg said, trying to shake off the last bits of sleep. "Let's get ready." They dressed quickly in their simple clothes, readying themselves for whatever challenges lay ahead. Greg checked his small backpack, making sure he had everything he might need. Maria adjusted her hair, tying it back tightly. Ben put on a cheerful smile, trying to boost everyone's spirits. After a quick meal of the strange stew left from the night before, the trio left their quarters and made their way to the main hall again. As they walked, they could see more Vulri, gathering, their scales glistening in the sunlight. The warriors moved with confidence, their muscles taut and strong. Greg felt a rush of excitement and a hint of fear at what was to come. When they arrived, the main hall was already filled with Vulri warriors. They were talking, laughing, and preparing for the games. Zhao stood at the front, his presence commanding. "Attention." He raised his voice, and the room fell silent. "Today, we show strength," Zhao announced. We invite our guests to test their skills. Who among you dares to face our warriors? Greg exchanged glances with Maria and Ben. Maria's eyes sparkled with determination. I think we should, she said quietly. We came here to show them we are not weak. Ben nodded, though he looked a bit worried. Yeah, but what if we lose? They don't play nice. We won't know until we try, Greg said, his voice steady. Let's show them what humans can do. Zhao watched them closely. Do you accept my challenge? He asked, his tone serious. Yes, Greg replied confidently. We accept. A murmur of surprise rippled through the Vulri crowd. They were not used to seeing humans take such bold steps. Zhao looked pleased but also curious. Very well. You will face my best warriors. The first challenge will be a test of strength. The crowd parted to reveal a large open space outside. It was a sandy arena, surrounded by tall stone walls. The sun shone brightly, and the air was thick with anticipation. Greg, Maria, and Ben stepped into the arena, feeling the weight of many eyes on them. The first Vulri warrior to step forward was massive, his muscles rippling under his scales. He held a heavy stone club in his hands, looking ready to crush anything in his way. Greg felt a rush of fear, but quickly pushed it aside. He had to focus. Who will face him first? Zhao called out, looking at the humans. I will, Greg said, stepping forward. He felt his heart racing as he approached the Vulri warrior. The crowd cheered, their voices echoing off the stone wall's dot as Greg stood in front of the Vulri warrior. He took a deep breath. He knew he was smaller and not as strong, but he had something else to rely on, strategy and quick thinking. The Vulri warrior grinned, showing sharp teeth. He swung his club once, testing its weight. The fight began. Greg quickly dodged to the side as the club swung down. The ground shook as the weapon. Here's part 3 of your story, written in third person and using simple, clear English. It is approximately 1,000 words. You can copy and paste this into a document. The sun hung high in the sky as the day continued on Garun. The cheers from the crowd still echoed in Greg, Maria, and Ben's ears. They had faced the Vulri warriors and proven their worth. Now, the humans were ready for the next part of the games. They could feel the excitement in the air, but they also knew that the challenges would only get tougher out as the 3 of them stood in the arena. Zhao called for attention again. We have seen strength and skill today, he announced. Now we will test your minds and your teamwork. The next challenge will require all of you to work together. Greg, Maria, and Ben exchanged glances. They were ready for anything, but they also felt a bit nervous. They had done well in the fights, but teamwork was a different kind of challenge. Zhao continued, You will face an obstacle course filled with traps and puzzles. You must reach the end together. The crowd roared with excitement at the announcement. Greg felt a rush of determination. We can do this, he said to Maria and Ben. We've faced tougher things before. Maria nodded, her eyes sparkling with confidence. Let's show them what we can do. Ben, always the jokester, grinned. As long as there are no giant monsters waiting for us at the end, I'm in. Zhao led them to the obstacle course, which was set up in a large open space. It was filled with various challenges, walls to climb, pits to jump over, and strange devices that looked like they could spring out and surprise them. The Vulri gathered around, eager to watch the humans struggle. Remember, Zhao warned, you must work together. You cannot complete the course alone. The 3 friends took a moment to discuss their strategy. I can climb the walls, Greg said, pointing to the tall structures ahead. Once I'm up, I can help pull you both over. I can scout ahead and look for traps, Maria suggested. I'm good at spotting danger. Ben scratched his head. I'm not the best climber, but I can help with the puzzles at the end. I've always liked solving problems. With their plan in place, they stepped up to the start line. Zhao raised his arm, and the crowd fell silent. On my signal, begin. Go. Zhao shouted. The three of them dashed forward, their hearts racing. Greg quickly approached the first wall, a tall structure made of rough stone. He jumped, grabbing the edge and pulling himself up. With a quick glance back, he saw Maria and Ben watching, ready to follow. Come on, I'll help you. He called down. Maria reached the wall next, using her agility to climb with ease. She reached the top and extended her hand to Ben, who was still preparing for the climb. You can do it. She encouraged. Ben took a deep breath and started to climb. He struggled a bit, his arms not as strong as the others. But with Greg and Maria's help, he made it over the wall. The three of them cheered quietly, feeling a sense of accomplishment. Next came a wide pit filled with muddy water. It looked deep and dark. We need to jump across, Greg said, looking around for a way to get to the other side. Maria pointed to a series of wooden beams that stretched across the pit. We can use those, she said. Okay, but we need to be careful, Ben warned. They might not be stable. One by one, they crossed the beams, moving carefully. Greg went first, testing each step before moving on. Maria followed, her movements graceful and quick. Ben took his time, concentrating hard not to fall. As they reached the other side, the crowd cheered again. The Vulri were impressed by their teamwork. Zhao watched closely, a hint of respect in his eyes. The next challenge was a series of strange devices scattered around the course. Some looked like they could spring up and trap them. We should move slowly, Maria suggested. I'll check for traps. Carefully, Maria moved ahead, observing the devices. She noticed that some had wires connected to them, and others had strange markings. I think these are traps, she called back. We need to avoid the ones with the wires. Greg and Ben followed closely behind her, moving cautiously. They managed to avoid the traps, thanks to Maria's sharp eyes. Each time they passed safely, the crowd's cheers grew louder. Finally, they reached the end of the obstacle course. Before them stood a large puzzle, a cube made of colorful blocks that needed to be arranged in a specific pattern. It was surrounded by a thick wall, and there was no way to climb over it. This is it, Ben said, looking at the puzzle with a mix of excitement and fear. We need to work together, Greg said. Let's figure this out. As they studied the puzzle, they realized that each block had a symbol on it. We need to match the symbols, Maria said, pointing to the patterns on the wall. It looks like they need to be in a certain order. The three of them began to solve the puzzle, working quickly. Greg lifted the blocks while Maria and Ben called out the symbols they saw. This one goes here, Maria shouted as she pointed to a block. They moved faster and faster, their teamwork shining through. The crowd was silent, watching closely. Zhao stood at the edge, his expression serious but intrigued. Finally, with one last push, they placed the last block in its spot. The cube clicked into place, and the wall in front of them moved aside, revealing a path to victory. The crowd erupted into cheers, their voices echoing across the arena. Greg, Maria, and Ben stood together, breathing heavily but filled with joy. They had completed the obstacle course and solved the puzzle. They looked at each other, smiles spreading across their faces. Zhao stepped forward, his expression now one of admiration. You have done well, humans. You have shown strength, skill, and teamwork. The Vulri respect you. Greg felt a rush of pride. Thank you, Commander Zhao. We could not have done it without each other. The people of Garoon applauded, and the humans took a moment to soak in the victory. They had faced challenges that tested their strength and minds, and they had succeeded. As they left the arena, Greg, Maria, and Ben felt a sense of unity. They knew they were not just visitors anymore. They were part of something greater. They were warriors standing side by side with the proud Vulri. The day was far from over, and more challenges awaited them. But for now, they celebrated their victory, knowing they had earned the respect of their new allies. Together, they were ready for whatever lay ahead. Here's part 4 of your story, written in third person and using simple, clear English. It is approximately 1,000 words. You can copy and paste this into a document. The sun began to set over Garoon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. The atmosphere was filled with excitement after the humans' victory in the obstacle course. Greg, Maria, and Ben walked together, their hearts still racing from the day's challenges. They had not only proven their strength, but also their ability to work as a team. As they made their way back to the main hall, they could hear the cheers from the Vulri crowd. The energy was electric, and the humans felt a sense of belonging. They were no longer just guests. They were part of the summit. Today was amazing. Ben exclaimed, his face lit up with joy. "I can't believe we did it," Maria nodded, still buzzing with excitement. "We worked together really well. It felt great to solve that puzzle." Greg smiled at his friends. "We showed them what humans can do. But I have a feeling the next challenge will be even tougher." When they entered the main hall, they were greeted by Jal and other Vulri leaders. "You have impressed us today, humans," Jal said, his voice deep but warm. "The next challenge will test your ability to survive and adapt. It will be a hunt." "A hunt?" Greg asked, intrigued. "What kind of hunt?" Jal's eyes gleamed with excitement. "You will hunt a creature called the Vortuk. It is fast and clever, and it lives in the dark forests of Garoon. You must work together to track it down and catch it." The mention of the Vortuk sent a chill down Maria's spine. "What does it look like?" she asked, trying to prepare herself for the challenge. "It is a large creature, like a mix of a wolf and a lizard," Jal explained. "It has sharp teeth and excellent senses. You will need to be careful." Ben gulped, feeling a bit nervous. "So, we have to find and catch this creature in its own home?" "Yes," Jal replied. "But do not worry. You will have the help of Vulri hunters. They will guide you through the forest." The humans exchanged glances. "We can do this," Greg said, trying to encourage them. "We have faced challenges before." As they prepared for the hunt, the Vulri warriors gathered their equipment. They were strong and skilled, each one carrying weapons made for the hunt. Greg, Maria, and Ben were given simple tools: a spear for Greg, a bow for Maria, and a net for Ben. "Remember," Jal instructed as they set out, "work as a team. Use your strengths to help one another." The group moved into the forest, the trees towering high above them. The sunlight filtered through the leaves, creating patterns on the ground. The air was thick with the scent of earth and moss. As they walked, Greg could hear the sounds of the forest: birds calling, leaves rustling, and distant growls from unseen creatures. Maria took the lead, her eyes scanning the surroundings. "We should look for tracks or signs of the Vortuk," she suggested. "It may have left clues about where it went." Greg nodded, following closely behind her. "Let's split up a bit, but stay within sight. We need to cover more ground." Ben stayed close to Greg, holding the net tightly. "I hope we find it soon. I don't like the idea of wandering around a dark forest for too long." As they moved deeper into the trees, Maria pointed to, "Here's part 5 of your story, written in third person and using simple, clear English. It is approximately 1,000 words. You can copy and paste this into a document. The next day dawned bright and clear over Garoon. The sun rose slowly, casting golden light across the landscape. Greg, Maria, and Ben woke early, feeling energized after the celebration with the Vulri. They had proven themselves as hunters and gained respect from their new friends. Now they were eager for the day ahead. As they gathered for breakfast, they could hear the sounds of the village waking up. Vulri children laughed and ran around, while adults prepared food and weapons for the day. The atmosphere was lively, filled with excitement and anticipation. Greg poured himself a drink made from a strange fruit. It was sweet and refreshing. "I wonder what today will bring," he said as he joined Maria and Ben at the table. "I hope it's more hunting," Ben said, grinning. "I feel like a warrior now," Maria laughed. "You did well yesterday, Ben, but we should be ready for anything. The Vulri may have more challenges for us." Just then, Joel approached their table, his tall figure casting a shadow over them. "Good morning, humans," he said, his voice booming but friendly. "Today, we will test your skills in a different way. The next challenge is a test of strategy and teamwork." Greg raised an eyebrow. "What kind of challenge?" Joel smiled, showing his sharp teeth. "We will conduct a mock battle. You will face my warriors in a game of tactics. It will help. You understand our ways of combat and the importance of working together." Ben's eyes widened with excitement. "A battle? This will be fun." Maria felt a mix of excitement and nerves. "What are the rules?" she asked. "You will be divided into teams," Joel explained. "The goal is to capture the flag from the opposing side. You must use strategy and communication. No lethal weapons will be used. This is for practice." Greg nodded, feeling the thrill of competition. "We can do this together." Joel led them to a large open field outside the village. The ground was flat and covered in soft grass. On one side of the field, the Vulri warriors gathered, their muscles tense with anticipation. On the other side, Greg, Maria, and Ben stood together, ready to face their opponents. Joel explained the rules to both teams. "Remember, this is a game. Use your minds as well as your strength. The team that captures the flag first wins." Once the teams were ready, Joel raised his arm. "Begin!" The battle started, and the humans quickly spread out, using the trees and rocks for cover. Greg glanced at Maria and Ben. "We need a plan," he said. "Should we split up or stick together?" "I think we should split up a bit," Maria suggested. "That way, we can cover more ground and confuse them." Ben nodded, his eyes shining with excitement. "I can move to the left and try to flank them. You two can create a distraction." "Good idea," Greg said. "Let's do it." They moved quickly, aware of the Vulri warriors, watching them closely. Greg and Maria headed to the center of the field, making noise to draw attention to themselves. Meanwhile, Ben crept to the left, moving quietly through the grass dot as Greg and Maria shouted and waved their arms. A few Vulri warriors rushed towards them. "Over here," Maria called, trying to keep their focus. "Now is our chance, Ben." Greg shouted. Ben took a deep breath and sprinted toward the Vulri's flag, hidden behind a large rock. He could see the flag fluttering in the wind. His heart raced as he moved quickly, trying to stay low and unnoticed. Just as he reached the rock, one of the Vulri warriors spotted him. "Human!" the warrior shouted, charging forward. Ben's instincts kicked in. He ducked behind the rock and grabbed the flag. "I've got it," he yelled, but he knew he had to escape before the Vulri reached him. Meanwhile, Greg and Maria were still keeping the Vulri busy. They moved as fast as they could, trying to stay one step ahead of the warriors. Greg threw a small stone to distract them, and the Vulri turned in surprise. "Go, Ben," Maria shouted. "We need to cover him." Ben dashed out from behind the rock, holding the flag high. He ran as fast as he could, but the Vulri were quick. They were gaining on him, their powerful legs moving swiftly across the grass. Greg and Maria rushed to Ben's side, ready to help. "Keep running," Greg shouted. "We'll protect you." As they ran together, Maria turned to face the closest. "Vulri warrior, we need to slow them down," she said, reaching for her bow. She aimed carefully and shot an arrow, not to hit, but to land close to the warrior's feet. The arrow landed just in front of him, startling him enough to slow. His chase. "Nice shot," Ben called out, still sprinting with the flag. They were nearly at the edge of the field, where the tall grass provided cover. Greg glanced back. "We're almost there." "Keep going." The Vulri warrior shouted to his teammates, urging them to catch up. Greg felt the pressure as he and Maria pushed forward, trying to keep Ben safe. They could see the finish line ahead, marked by a large stone. Just a little further. Maria encouraged, her voice firm. Ben felt the weight of the flag in his hand, his heart pounding with each step. He could see the stone marker growing closer and closer. The Vulri were right behind him, but he refused to look back. He focused on the finish. Suddenly, Greg turned and blocked one of the Vulri warriors with his body. "Stop right there," he shouted, holding his spear in a defensive position. The warrior skidded to a halt. Surprised, Maria took the opportunity to run alongside Ben, urging him on. "You can do it. Just a few more steps." With a final burst of energy, Ben crossed the finish line, raising the flag high above his head. "We did it," he shouted, his voice filled with triumph. The crowd erupted in cheers. The Vulri warriors slowed to a stop, watching in amazement. Jal stepped forward, a proud smile on his face. "You have won the mock battle. Well done." Humans. Greg, Maria, and Ben stood together, breathing heavily but filled with joy. They had worked together, used their strengths, and succeeded against the Vulri warriors. Jal approached them, holding out his hand. "You have earned my respect and the respect of my people. You fought bravely and with honor." Greg shook Jal's hand, feeling a bond forming between them. "Thank you, Commander. This was a great experience." Maria added, "We learned so much about teamwork today." Ben beamed with pride. "I can't believe we won. This is amazing." As the celebrations continued, the humans felt a deeper connection to the Vulri. They were no longer just visitors. They were friends and allies. They had faced challenges together and learned from one another. That evening, as the sun set over the horizon, the village gathered for another feast. The atmosphere was joyful, filled with laughter and music. Greg, Maria, and Ben sat with Shal, and the other leaders, sharing stories and enjoying the food. "We are glad you are with us," Jal said, raising his cup. "Together we can face any challenge." The humans raised their cups in response, feeling grateful for the friendships they had formed. They knew that their journey was far from over, but they were ready to face whatever came next. Together, as the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Greg, Maria, and Ben looked at each other, knowing that they had found something special on Garoon, a sense of belonging, friendship, and purpose. They were part of this world now, and they would continue to learn and grow alongside the Vulri. Asterisk certainly. Here's part 6 of your story, written in third person and using simple, clear English. It is approximately 1,000 words and follows the events after the humans' victory in the hunt. After the hunt, Greg, Maria, and Ben returned to the Vulri village with the other warriors. The sky above Garoon was dark now, and stars glowed above the treetops. The humans were tired but happy. They had caught the Vortic, and their hearts were full of pride. The Vulri greeted them with cheers and loud voices. Drums pounded and fires burned in the main square. Vulri children danced around the humans, singing songs in their own language. The adults watched with careful eyes, but many of them smiled. Greg felt that the distance between the two peoples was becoming smaller. The Vulri no longer saw the humans as weak or soft. They saw them as fellow hunters and survivors. Commander Jal stepped forward and raised his arm for silence. The crowd became quiet. Jal looked at Greg, Maria, and Ben. Tonight, you are no longer visitors. You are friends of the Vulri. You have shown courage, skill, and respect for our ways. Greg nodded. Thank you, Commander Jal. We have great respect for you and your people, too. Jal smiled, his sharp teeth showing. Then he motioned for everyone to sit around the largest fire in the square. Food was brought out, strange roasted meats, fruits, and hot drinks with a smoky smell. Maria sat between Greg and Ben, watching. The Vulri as they shared food and stories. A Vulri elder named Shara spoke to Maria, her voice gentle. You move like a forest cat. Your arrows fly true. Did you always hunt on your home world? Maria shook her head. I learned to hunt, but not for survival. On Earth, we sometimes hunt, but mostly for food or sport. Our world has many animals, and our ancestors had to fight them to live. Shara listened, her eyes thoughtful. It is the same here. Long ago, the Vulri were not the strongest. We learned to hunt and survive. Now we are the apex predators of Garoon. Ben joined the conversation. On Earth, people also had to fight big animals. There were wolves, bears, even giant cats with sharp teeth. We became strong because we had to. Some young Vulri gathered around Ben, curious. Are you afraid of nothing? One of them asked. Ben smiled. I'm afraid of plenty of things, but I try to face